I am so glad you convinced me that the family car should be the Defender 110. It is so beautiful inside, it's so comfortable, and it just feels indestructible.
Yes, it really is. I've been waiting a long time for the new model to come out. The Defender 110, I'm telling you, it's my favorite car of all times. It's my third one. You know, I have stories of going off road. The guy managed the group. He was like, "What are you doing in this beautiful car?" I'm like, "I'm going off road." He's like, "Are you sure? Because you can use one of ours." And then they look like Mad Max cars. I'm like, "No, no, 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 we're going to do this." And he was shocked.
Wow. Well, it's great because the Defender has been reimagined for 21st century adventure, and its unparalleled off-road ability as well as its robust interior are invaluable whether you're headed towards uncharted territory or just a weekend of exploration. The Defender 110 tackles challenging surroundings with absolute confidence. The SUV conveys strength outside and in, featuring peerless technology like an intuitive driver display and an award-winning infotainment system. That's my favorite part, to keep you connected no matter where the journey takes you. Adventure is unique to everyone, and so is the Defender. Choose from the two-door Defender 90, the four-door Defender 110, or the larger Defender 130 with the ability to seat up to 8 passengers. You'll find uncompromising performance in all three. So pack up and go even further with the Defender 110. Learn more at landroverusa.com/defender.
These days, we're all investors, trying to be smart with our money despite our worst impulses. But at iShares, we believe that deep down inside of every investor is a better investor. One that's just waiting to be let out. Explore iShares ETFs and insights and let your best investor out. Visit iShares.com for more information.
You know, one of my favorite topics is side hustles. I'm a firm believer everybody, or a lot of people, not everybody, but like I tell my kids, for instance, look into other things you can do to make the so-called famous multiple streams of income, side hustles. And I think that's where a large amount of the workforce has gone, is into side hustles, side gigs. And a lot of times those side hustles turn into full businesses that you do full time. And that's the dream. I mean, that's what happened to me. I started my first side hustle in the 90s and it turned into my first business. It didn't start that way. I didn't think it would turn into a business, but it did. So I'm grateful for my friend Michael Hearne. He did a whole docuseries about side hustles. You can find it at hustles.jamesaltuchershow.com. That's hustles.jamesaltuchershow.com, and hustles is spelled HUSTLES, hustles.jamesaltuchershow.com. But let's just hear what Michael Hearne has to say about it. Here he is.
This isn't your average business podcast, and he's not your average host. This is the James Altucher Show.
Yes, we were just talking about AI. We're going to talk about side hustles, and this is relevant to side hustles. We were talking about AI with Michael Hearne. And Michael, you believe that AI won't fully replace humans for 20, 30 years in some categories. What categories do you think it won't replace humans?
Well, so I'll caveat that a little bit with one of the things that, like you understand machine learning probably at a level that I don't for sure. And one of the things that slows that down is when there has to be a human involved in the training process. That's like, hey, this is a success, this is a failure. So training like an AI agent to achieve success where a human has to be involved really slows down the process. But if you've got things like AutoGPT, which is one of these new things that actually has internet access that can self-train and iterate on its own ideas, that's how I think we could see a much more rapid acceleration in the technology.
Yeah, and I might do a podcast at some later date really explaining how it all works. But like ChatGPT, as an example, they took every piece of writing ever written on the internet,
right?
Which is basically every piece of writing, period, because all books are on the internet, and all Reddit posts, Wikipedia pages, tweets, status update, whatever. And it spent a year and a half doing unsupervised training, no humans involved at all, in order to figure out how many categories am I really dealing with here? Is it just everybody's talking about the Beatles, or is there more than one category?
Yeah.
And it turns out there's millions of categories. So there's, you could have some Beatle lyrics, which are about the Beatles, but are also about girls they love. And it's about a
Uh-huh.
girl with pretty hair by the beach and whatever. So there's millions and millions of categories. And then given a query, it uses the unsupervised learning to understand, okay, what's the context of this query and what am I talking about? What is the most probable response to this query given the unsupervised learning I have? So it's in
Yeah.
like these 20 categories. So I have to come up with an answer that melds these categories in some way and so on. And then what happened was it wasn't good.
Yeah.
So it did another year of millions of man hours of supervised learning. It hired basically workers in Kenya for $2 an hour to just say, nope, that output is bad.
Mm.
Yes, that output is good. And it kept feeding itself and getting better and better. It took a year.
Yeah.
And I don't know if future iterations will take that long because now it already has
Right.
categories of data sets that are supervised learning. But you're right. Although I will say, very interesting, related to all this is several years ago, there's a game called Go in
Uh-huh.
Asia.
Yeah.
And I've spent a lot of time on computer games, meaning not necessarily playing them, but
Right.
working on AI versions of them ever since like the 80s. And I was discussing, this is 30 or more than 30 years ago, I was discussing with Kai-Fu Lee, who
Mm.
has since gone on to create Siri for Apple, and then
Mm.
he worked at Microsoft, then Google, then he was one of the first investors in Sina. So he's beyond now. But we were
Yeah.
both grad students at the time, and I asked him, he had created the world champion Othello program, and I asked
Mm.
him if he would work with me on creating a Go program, because Go was the only
Yeah.
game where it was people thought it was impossible. Like chess, people thought, okay, maybe in a generation, chess will
Mhm.
get there. This was in like 1991. Maybe people thought like in 20 years, chess would get there.
Yeah.
But people would laugh at me if I said I was working on a Go program. And Kai Fu Lee, he didn't laugh. He said, but he looked at it, but it was too hard. It was impossible. He
Mm.
thought chess, of course, was solved and not solved, but it was better than the world chess champion in 1997. But
Yep.
everyone still thought forever, and I thought Go was impossible for a lot of reasons. If you know how to play Go, you'll understand that it seems impossible.
Yeah.
And then Google created this program called AlphaGo, which basically did unsupervised learning. It didn't even know the rules. It just played through hundreds of thousands of games and it learned the rules and it got really good. And then it played itself another trillion games and it just destroyed the world. Not only did it destroy the world champion, it made moves and played strat. This is a very deep game. It made
Yeah.
to be good at this game, you have to move in with a Go family at the age of 5 and basically not see your family again. And that's how you start as maybe a professional.
Mm.
And the world champion of Go, it played him. Not only did he quit Go after losing,
Oh no.
like he was so shattered, but the computer made moves that were previously thought very, very poor strategic moves. And it turned out that they were much better than humans thought. So
Wow.
it reached a depth of knowledge beyond what humans could experience. So
Yeah.
that's why I'm almost reluctant to give any predictions. Although I will say it's going to be really hard for ChatGPT to be a good, let's say, novelist anytime soon.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. That's kind of what I'm thinking too. Like as a copywriter, like I had a copywriter who missed the deadline last week, and so I had to jump in and write copy this weekend for this upcoming docuseries launch. And I was trying my best to get ChatGPT to like spit out anything that was useful to me, and it just can't. Like whenever you need to take something like, one of the things that you've probably seen many times in sales copy is blind benefit bullets, where somebody gives a very specific tactic and then you describe what it does, but you don't give away what it is. So it's like the one thing that gets you XYZ result so you can, live your dreams. So I just don't know how to get Chat GPT to spit something out like that. That's a level of like, human creativity that I don't know how we're going to get it there. And maybe it's that I'm not a good enough prompt engineer, but
Yeah, it's funny. Like there's already people are worried about it taking jobs. There's already a new job category called prompt engineer. Like
Exactly.
that's the first thing I was wondering is if you did not like my wife recently wrote a biography
Mhm.
of herself and she said write it eloquently. And then she said write it more eloquently. And there are so many adverbs and
Yeah.
adjectives. I'm like, this is the worst piece of writing I've ever read. It's like
Exactly.
her obsidian mane of hair. And it's just like her endearing and irreverent sense of style and blah blah blah. Like it was just so many adjectives and adverbs. It was like a mess.
Yeah.
But maybe she just didn't ask the right prompts. I don't know.
Right.
And I think with a lot of these things, it will be the combination of human and AI together that will create interesting results.
Yeah.
And it is interesting though how far it's come, but in a lot of areas, like you take chess as an example.
Yeah.
Chess computers are much better than humans.
Yeah.
But the best is humans combined with a computer
Mm.
play better than just the computer.
Mm.
And so I don't know why that is, but it's an interesting thing. But again, every prediction I've ever made gets beaten eventually, and we'll see.
Yeah.
That said, though, and people listening to this podcast know, I was talking to Matt Barry, who's the CEO of freelancer.com, and we're going to be
Mm.
talking about freelancing and side hustles here. He
Yeah.
said ChatGPT and AI in general has been enormous for freelancers. Like,
Yeah.
and nobody complains. There's more jobs out there than ever. More startups are starting than ever, and they want
Yeah.
fast work. They want AI.
Yeah.
And like a logo design. I know a guy who designs album covers, for
Yeah.
instance. Now he can do 10 in a day instead of 1 in a week. And there's
Exactly.
demand for it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, exactly. No, that's my prediction there is like it really is. It's one of the best things that's happened for freelancers in, a long time. I mean, you used to actually have to know how to do graphic design to do an album cover. Now you got to know how to write a prompt, how to speak to an artificial intelligence, and then it's going to spit out dozens of options for you. And maybe then that requires a good eye for what's good. But you used to have to master all these different skills just to be able to create those graphics. And now anybody can do it.
the one thing I will say to humans who are a little humans, I'm talking about the species of Homo sapiens. But one thing should say about to people, because I get nervous too. Like,
Yeah.
I love to write. I write books. I write articles. Will there come a point where I'm not needed? Blah, blah, blah. But one thing I will always say is, and this has always been true about AI, always will be true. It's the one thing always will be true about AI. Live an interesting life, and
Yeah.
AI can't compete with you.
Right?
If you have unique experiences, then you expand the edge of knowledge, and AI only works up until the edge of knowledge. And
Yes.
now I did give the example in AlphaGo where it came up with an idea, a strategy that humans never thought about.
Right.
And AI does make up stuff up that's pretty good.
Yeah.
But I know for me, I write about my life, and ChatGPT is never going to know about how I get personally affected by a story or something that happened to me.
Yeah.
And that's why people read.
Yeah.
People watch Usain Bolt because they want to see a human at peak performance. If they just want to see something fast, they would watch a rocket ship. So
Yeah.
people like humans with interesting experiences or peak performance or whatever, and AI
Yeah.
can't replace that.
No. And it can't do thought leadership. And the unique thing about, say, like, Go or chess, where like there is a specific, very specific, measurable outcome where, with something like creativity or thought leadership, it's like, how do you identify success for an AI agent? Because if an AI agent doesn't know what success is, it can't determine whether to continue down that path or something. Where humans, we have the ability to connect disparate dots that come from our random experiences. One thing that happened to us when we were 3 years old combined with something that, you just said to me 2 minutes ago, and this thing that happened to me 10 years ago when I was driving down a trail in a national park or something. Like we combine these different points of view and data points, and then maybe some specific knowledge about a thing in order to reach these novel conclusions. And I don't think AI is there to where it's able to do that yet.
No, and that's why if you look at the average newspaper,
Mm.
this is a classic example where I think AI will replace jobs or at least change an industry. The average reporter at a local newspaper, okay, this is what happened at the city council
Yeah.
meeting, blah, blah, blah. Well, now you could just take the transcript and feed it into ChatGPT and it'll write a better article because it'll
Right.
know the past 100 city council meetings and all the laws, and it'll be able to refer to them, whereas the human won't know that.
Right.
But if I'm going to be an investigative journalist, like, oh, I'm investigating this politician and I met my contact Deep Throat in a bathroom and he slipped this folder, like that's a story and that's interesting and that's reality.
Yeah.
When I first met Kai-Fu Lee, again, this is the guy who invented speech recognition. And I was visiting the grad school for the first time and they encouraged me to meet Kai-Fu. He showed me the system he was working on. It was for speech recognition only on a naval battleship. So basically the first commands that I heard an AI respond to were all commands related to killing people very far away. So like that's like an experience that AI probably won't make up, and I would be able to tell it in my own unique way that
Right.
AI can maybe estimate and maybe it'll be good enough, but it won't be me. It doesn't matter how many billions of neurons it has. And by the way, the other thing is AI is not human. It
No.
is it is like the Google search query. So if you type the letter T into the Google search box,
Yeah.
it'll say, "Do you mean the?"
Yeah.
And if you write the presidential, it'll say, "Do you mean the presidential election?"
Yeah.
Like that is only finding the word election because usually when someone says the presidential, they mean either election or candidate. Like statistically, that's the most common. So that's all ChatGPT is, but a million times more sophisticated. It is not awake. It is just a statistical machine.
Yeah.
And that'll never change. It's not like the Cylons on Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love these clothes. Mizzen and Main. That's Mizzen and Main. It really is the most comfortable work clothes. Travel clothes. I had to travel this whole week. I'm traveling for a week and a half, and I just took Mizzen and Main clothes with me. Close out 2023 in style with comfortable, breathable, packable, and machine washable pieces from Mizzen and Main. As you wrap up your year-end goals, enjoy a Mizzen and Main dress shirt that you can wear confidently. I like that they've very, very just nice, solid colors. I don't really like to get all fancy in patterns and everything, although they do have some pattern shirts, but very comfortable clothes, stretchable pants. It's just super comfortable, but they look professional and you can wear them casually or professionally. I like some of their flannel shirts or untuck shirts. I love untuck. I never tuck in. So again, whether you're shopping for a special someone or giving yourself the gift you really want, I just buy myself gifts. Mizzen and Main is the perfect gift for any guy who works, travels, and or cares about looking and feeling great. As you could tell by my many photos across the internet, I care about looking fantastic. I'm practically a model. And let's be honest, every guy loves to look great. So again, shop now at mizzenandmain.com and save 20% when you spend $130 or more using promo code James. That's promo code James at Mizzen and Main, Mizzen and Main.com.
You know what I love about fantasy sports is that even though I'm not going to be a great basketball player or a baseball player or a football player or whatever, I feel like I get to participate and make decisions and use my knowledge of these different leagues or these different sports to compete. So it's like I can pick my team or I can pick my favorite players and I could use my knowledge to make predictions and maybe even make money. So with the basketball season here, you can now pick combo projections across football and basketball from the Specials League on Prize Picks. This is a league created specifically for combo projections that include two or more players from different sports or leagues. Want to play alongside some of Prize Picks' favorite players like rapper Meek Mill and comedian Andrew Schultz, who's also been a guest on this podcast, and I've been a guest on his? You can now find community plays under the promos tab of the app to view entries for some of the biggest names in the Prize Picks community each week. Look, Prize Picks even offers a reboot policy so that your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. For football and basketball games, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and does not return in the second, that player is rebooted. Prize Picks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy. What? So I love playing it. I love anywhere where I can use analytical ability with my interests to demonstrate some skill and maybe make some money. And I like the game like aspect. I do wish they had chess as a category on prizepicks.com, but I'll set up for what they've got. Maybe I should make my own fantasy chess league. But in any case, I love Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/James. Use code James for a first deposit match up to $100. That's the easiest $100 you're ever going to make. So that's prizepicks.com/James and use code James. Daily fantasy sports made easy. Michael, you're doing some really fascinating stuff with side hustles. And I
Yeah.
know that's a big topic for my listeners. We might be entering into a recession. Everyone, and I encourage my daughters, like, don't do the typical corporate job, or do it if you
Yeah.
want it, if you
Yeah.
love it. But that's not the safe route to go. The safe route is figure out side hustles that are recession independent
Yeah.
and multiple streams of income, blah, blah,
Right.
blah. We hear
Right.
about it everywhere. But you really have researched this. You're doing a docuseries about it. What's the state of side hustles right now? What advice would you give someone ages 20 to 25, 30 to 35, 40 to 45, if they want to quit their job and
Yeah.
do side hustles? What should they do? How should they learn? How should they advertise? How should they brand themselves, and so on?
There's so many options right now. Like, it really is this idea that's been building up in our society for a while now. This whole gig economy thing that, I first heard about it, a decade and a half ago. I think it was Paul Zane Pilsner or somebody like that talked about the gig economy or the sharing economy. It's just, these kind of concepts have built up, and they've reached the level of kind of public awareness where most people, they hear the word side hustle, they know what you're talking about. For me, I sort of gravitated to it naturally. I don't know why. I have a good deal of Native American blood in me, and I have a theory about how, they didn't have the whole Protestant work ethic. So like, I was all about like, how can I earn a full-time income while working part-time and like enjoying life?
Yeah. I was the same way, by the way. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's not like I hated work. Like, I worked
Right.
very hard, but only at things I love doing.
Yeah.
And everything else, I needed money. So while I learned whatever it was I loved doing, I would just take the easiest, almost menial jobs I could take just so I could pursue my passions.
That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah. And that's actually how I started my first side hustle was, as a freelance writer. So, I was like, okay, I want to be an entrepreneur because at some point I read Rich Dad Poor Dad. I was like, you can be an entrepreneur. Like, this is amazing. I can actually like plan out a path to get rich and like have freedom. Wow. Like, why didn't anybody ever tell me this? And I started playing around with it, and I realized that, marketing was kind of the key, the ability to, bring in leads and then convert them to sales. And, that's what drove the business. And so I was like, okay, I tried some things, they didn't work. And then I went out and I learned how to do good direct response marketing, read some books, self-educated on it, and kind of got that up. Like, it seems to me like we're very similar, where like you get like a dog on a bone, like, or like a scent, you just get laser focused and like you eat up everything on a topic. So I read, like dozens of books over a period of, a month, and, downloaded all kinds of like bootleg courses and stuff online, and like anything I could get my hands on about, direct response marketing. And I was like, wow, this is great. I can actually sell this skill as a service because every business needs this. And I can get paid to become a master of this craft of, writing direct response copy and doing direct response marketing. And I made, six figures for, a solid decade just by doing that.
I want to add a couple things to that. First off, we've done some episodes about copywriting. So if someone doesn't understand exactly what direct response marketing or copywriting is, I've done some episodes on that.
Yeah.
We could talk about that more here, but there's a lot of information about this.
Yeah.
But this is a very good and very valuable side hustle technique because it's a skill that it's hard to acquire that skill. Not as hard as some people think, but it is
Yeah.
still a skill that's hard to acquire, and it's a good. You don't need it full time for many people, but you
Right.
need it occasionally if you have some product or brand
Yeah.
you're selling.
Yeah.
But then you said something very interesting, which is after doing it a long time, you learn how to teach other people how to do it, and
Yeah.
that's often a great side hustle as well,
Yes.
to kind of teach what you've learned from other side hustles.
Yeah.
And just to mention, you did a whole docuseries on side hustles. I don't know anybody who's done that much research and that much work on it. I mean, we're
Mhm.
going to describe in depth side hustles with you could do right now without seeing the docuseries, but
Right.
the docuseries I'm hoping will really fill in any blanks
Yeah.
people might have. How
Yeah.
many episodes is that docuseries?
Yeah. 9 episodes, 27 people who are all self-made. Most of them have a backstory similar to mine, similar to yours, although yours is pretty unique. Where we all had these moments where we were really just like struggling, and we had these periods of being like extremely broke, and then like we just kind of like figured our way out, self-educated our way into starting something, and you have your first like breakthrough where you're like you get your first check or you have your first big event, and from there everybody scaled into six figures. And most of the guys in the series, and I don't know if I told you this, but we actually have an interview from you that is going to be in the series.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's a
Thank you.
great interview, by the way, so people should watch it just for that alone. And most of them broke that six-figure mark and just said like, hey, like that when you get to that point where like, money isn't so much the driver, it's like, how can I have a huge impact with what I'm doing? And that pushes people to push beyond that six figures into 7, 8, and some even into 9 figures and above. But it's really cool because they're all we're all. It's hard for me to lump myself in that group, but just regular people who it's just a very approachable format, and everybody shares like where they started. Nobody has this big head like you might think some of them would. Just very humble and very practical, just sharing, the steps they took and how their mindset shifted and the skills that it took to get through there. And what I love about it really and about this format is that you get a mix of, those really interesting stories along with some of the mindset things, which, as you advance in your life and wisdom, you realize those are the things that make or break you and how far you're able to advance in any area. And that's not just when it comes to your finances, but life. But it's very easy to measure when it comes to your finances. So you get the mindset stuff, cool stories, but then you also get really, really tactical stuff, and it's all coming from people who have been there and they've done that. It's not coming from some professor who's never started a business. I mean, maybe they've consulted or something, but they've never been in the trenches, learning, when they make a mistake, like you feel the burn, like you feel the pain of it. And when you get something right, you learn from that, get the thrill of success. So it's this really just entertaining way to get a lot of really quality education from people who have actually done it. And there's probably couple dozen different options that are covered as far as side hustles go.
So let's talk about that. Like
Yeah.
again, let's say I want
Yeah.
to transition to a multiple six-figure side hustle job.
Yeah.
What areas should I start to consider?
Well, that's a very personal choice. So that's where you kind of, and I'm going to borrow from the series, right? From the experts in the series, where it's like, what are the intersections of your passions, things that you enjoy doing, the skills that you have, and then what are people willing to pay for? And so you kind of find that intersection of things. Some people, that's going to be marketing. Some people want to sell services, right? Then there are people that want to be a YouTube star. Maybe they're, they have knowledge on a particular expertise or on a particular area, and they can create content on that and become an influencer in that field.
But they might not know video editing, so they need to hire a freelancer to do the
Or
video editing.
Or they can use, an AI video editing tool these days to even circling all the way back around to AIs, it's making all these things more accessible. There's video editing AI out there that will they'll take all the ums and the pauses and the breaths out of it. They'll put music behind it. They'll do all the graphics so that, it has that kind of engaging effect.
What's a site for that?
Wisecut is one of them, for example. And I think there's another one called like Content Fries or something like that.
So like if you're an expert at these pieces of software and someone doesn't want to deal with the editing or the posting of the video, they just want to make the video on their phone and give it to you, you could be a
Yeah.
freelancer and charge X amount of dollars and
Absolutely.
do it for them. Like again, like someone might be interested in video production and directing, and then there's these tools available, and so now they can do this as freelance. So again, what are the first steps? So let's say like another person could be a coder but doesn't want to work for a big company. Another person could love music and graphic design, so he designs album covers. Like I guess if I was freelancing, I'd probably, I don't know, ghostwrite books or something like that. Like I love writing.
Yeah, exactly. So I think a lot of it is just like expanding your options initially, and like something's going to draw and catch your eye, and you're going to be like, "Ooh, that sounds really cool." And then it's just a matter of like having the courage and a little bit of the knowledge to step out there and try it. So, the series talks about being a YouTube influencer. We've talked about some AI side hustles, but there's like, real estate is a side hustle for some people. Airbnb can be like a really lucrative side hustle for someone.
Okay, so let's talk about those for a second, because like stuff like copywriting and video editing, I feel like I could post those on a freelance site like freelancer.org or Upwork or Fiverr, and I'll get gigs, and maybe I'll get enough gigs I can start a company and so on. But then there are things that are more like they are side hustles, but they feel a little more like businesses. Like okay, I'm going to be like a concierge and manage 20 Airbnbs. And that starts to be like a business, and those are great. But how do you distinguish between that kind of side hustle? Like, is that just as easy to get involved in? Like, what should someone do if they want to do that?
Yeah. So again, like this is not my personal area of expertise, but when I finished going through this interview, like I called my wife. I was like, "Hey, we're going to get into Airbnb because it's like so accessible." Like most people think you have to go out there and buy a house or like build a house or like something that involves like an acquisition. So you got a down payment, now you got a mortgage, you got all these things. But this guy was actually teaching how you could go out and you could rent an apartment by the month, you get a year lease, and then short term let it out for, by the day. And it's essentially that arbitrage between the monthly rent and the daily income that you can produce. And he's doing it all with the landlord's approval. He tells, what he says to them to get them to say yes, because you don't want to hide it. That's something that he learned the hard way.
Yeah. Believe me. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But they love it because like the apartment's getting cleaned. Like nobody's going to let the grass grow in the backyard for a year. Like there's all these things. And he's basically able to take whatever the monthly rent is and make that as a net profit. So if you know the landlord game, like that's far better a return than you're ever going to get.
So if someone rents an apartment for $3,000, how much do you think they can get per month Airbnb-ing it? And how much do they give to the person who's freelancing, managing the process?
Yeah. So for what his rule was, if it's $3,000, you're going to make about $3,000 in net off that property. So if it's 1,000, you'll net about 1,000, and that's just what he's learned after doing this thousands of times. And he's got a few 100,000 students.
What's a risk? Like if I start renting 50 apartments and thinking I can do this with all of them just by hiring the right freelancers, what's a risk that could happen?
You could rent in the wrong location, but you'll avoid that again if you listen to someone who's been there and done that. So he talks about how to identify a good location, and one of the simpler rules that I'm just remembering off the top of my head is if there are hotels in an area, guess what? People are looking for short-term rentals. So you could wind up, getting rentals in an area where they don't lease, or like you overpaid on the price that you're renting at. But all that can be eliminated with just a little bit of research. And maybe it's not intuitive if it's something that you're just approaching as a complete newbie. But even just like a 1 hour interview with this guy, and like there's so many little nuggets in there that can really just offset those risks.
Let's say I'm my daughter, okay, and she's 24 and she's sick of working as a bartender and just collecting tips in New York City. And she has no, she's never done any kind of entrepreneurial activity in her life.
Yeah.
How could she start to figure out how to do this? How does she get clients and, basically apartments to rent and so
Yeah.
on?
Yeah. So what's cool is one of the ladies who's in the series, that was what she did. She was, bartending at night, learning to be a massage therapist during the day, and like was hustling, and then like somehow like wound up getting into, short-term rentals. She took years to get into it because she had to, she pioneered her own way. And now she's buying, multi-million dollar properties, like several a year, and doing high-end short-term leases. But one, you can watch the series. There's, I think, 2 or 3 people in the series who talk about how to do Airbnb. But just like you would learn any other skill, like finding a mentor is one of life's legitimate shortcuts. Is someone who's been there, who's done that, who can tell you, start here, do these things to get your first deal, and watch out, because if you mess this up, it's going to cost you everything, or it's going to really hurt you, it's going to set you back. And so, you're not going to be able to find that necessarily, down at the coffee shop, or, if you're in a job, like you're probably not going to find that from some other bartender. But the wonderful thing about the internet is, you can find these mentors online, and many of them are putting out free content. So the internet is there. It's your ally for any of these side hustles. But again, I encourage people to watch the docuseries because it's a cool, engaging format, and it's free.
This is such a valuable service for all business owners, big businesses, small businesses, doesn't matter. I wish I had this in the many different businesses that I've started. Sometimes it seems like your business is humming, but then suddenly you don't understand it. You're starting to fall behind. You're not understanding where your costs are, where your revenues are, where your payments are. Teams are buried in all sorts of like BS work, and you can't seem to close the books. So you need like one dashboard, one source of truth. I'm jealous of this business, NetSuite from Oracle, of course, NetSuite by Oracle. I wish I'd come up with this idea. It's a brilliant concept to have all your business intelligence on one dashboard. This is why you need to know these 3 numbers: 37,000, 25, and 1. So 37,000, that's the number of businesses which have upgraded to NetSuite by Oracle. NetSuite is the #1 cloud financial system, streamlining accounting, financial management, inventory, HR, and more. 25. NetSuite turns 25 this year. That's 25 years of helping businesses do more with less, close their books in days, not weeks, and drive down costs. 1, because your business is one of a kind. So you get a customized solution for all of your key performance indicators, your KPIs, in one efficient system with one source of truth. Manage risk, get reliable forecasts, and improve margins. Everything you need to grow, all in one place. So right now, download NetSuite's popular KPI checklist designed to give you consistently excellent performance, absolutely free, at netsuite.com/James. That's netsuite.com/James to get your own KPI checklist. netsuite.com/James. The future of learning is definitely online. Like, it's such BS that you have to spend $200,000 or take $200,000 in loans and go to some fancy school when it's useless. It doesn't guarantee you a job. Most employers, including me, do not care about degrees or grades or anything like that. We want to care that you love what you're doing, that you know what you're doing, in some cases that you have experience or that you're willing to learn. But people in general love learning and are curious. Like, the key to success is curiosity. And I think masterclass.com is the perfect model for online learning. I'm really happy they're sponsoring this episode. If you're going to give a gift, give the gift of learning. Masterclass makes a meaningful gift this season for you and anyone on your list, because both of you can learn from the best to become your best, from leadership to effective communication to cooking. Let me tell you some of the classes I've taken. I've taken comedy
from Steve Martin. I mean, can you believe I can take a class from Steve Martin on comedy, or Judd Apatow, my favorite comedy director? I could take an actual class from him on writing. Wolfgang Puck on cooking. Dan Brown on writing, or Judy Bloom, who's been on this podcast, on writing. By the way, Wolfgang Puck also has been on this podcast. It's such a pleasure. I try to take classes all the time from masterclass.com. And whether you're watching Masterclass on TV or listening in audio mode in the app or on their site, the quality speaks for itself. It's like these Masterclass instructors are your own personal mentors that are going to help you reach the next level. How much would it cost to take one-on-one classes on comedy from Steve Martin or on chess from Gary Kasparov? You just wouldn't be able to do it. But it would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. With a Masterclass annual membership, it's $10 a month. Memberships start at $120 a year for unlimited access to one-on-one classes with all 180 plus Masterclass instructors. So it's not just $120 for one instructor. You get all 180 plus Masterclass instructors. Boost your confidence and find practical takeaways you can apply to your life and at work. And if you own a business or are a team leader, use Masterclass to empower and create future-ready employees and leaders. That's the real education in today's world. So this holiday season, you can give one annual membership and get one free at masterclass.com/JAS. JAS, of course, stands for the James Altucher Show. So right now you can get 2 memberships for the price of one at masterclass.com/JAS. Masterclass.com/JAS. Offer terms apply. Someone listening to this, I want them to basically go away thinking, oh, maybe I should do this or this. And they have the basic tools to start. So like what can you remember from the person you interviewed on, whether it's Airbnb or something else? Like the Airbnb one sounds interesting because it does sound like that's a gateway into having a real estate business, essentially.
Absolutely. Yeah. The guy started that one after he lost everything in 2008 and was like, I've got to get back into real estate. Now he buys properties as well as, renting them. But it's very accessible. There are people that talk about being YouTube influencers, and how people can, even with like a small audience, like I'm not talking about becoming Mr. Beast here, or one of these mega, YouTube stars, but people with 1,000 people in their audience who are making 100,000 or more a year because they're highly engaged with that audience and they're doing certain things with their messaging to pull them over to buy courses and coaching and consulting with them offline. There's people who are creating info products and selling those online, and people in the series who are talking about like how to use different softwares to make it easy. There are 2 or 3 people who talk about Amazon drop shipping, Etsy stores, Shopify. All right, so let me get really down to brass tacks on let's stop with the the broad stuff and go down to brass tacks on, say, the Amazon thing.
I've written about drop shipping back in 2016, where the idea is buy some, like let's say you're selling shampoo, buy something cheap on, like buy Head and Shoulder shampoo super cheap on Alibaba in China, for like 50 cents a bottle, and sell it for $19 in the US. And you don't have to have any inventory. You can just you get the customer's address on a site here, but then you have the Chinese site, Alibaba, drop ship it straight to the address. So you don't have to have any inventory. So that's the whole idea of drop shipping. How can someone get involved in that? Because that seems like an amazing side hustle.
It is. And the thing is like you can, so we'll take Amazon, and this lady was talking about selling Spider-Man balloons, right? And so she was buying Spider-Man balloons and, packs of 100 and buying, dozens of those packs of hundreds, or maybe in hundreds of those packs. And she was getting her unit cost down to 50 cents a unit, but people were buying them for somewhere around like $7 on Amazon. Now, here's the cool thing is whenever she looked the SKU up, this on the barcode, she looked that up to list it on Amazon. Somebody had already done that listing. And so she didn't even have to create her own listing. She just sent it to the Amazon warehouse. So now it's Prime eligible because Amazon is then going to handle all the fulfillment and shipping. And under that already existing listing, she's now selling, and her inventory is being sold through that listing that somebody else did that's already got reviews and the product description and the pictures and everything on it. She's selling those things for about $7, and she's netting about, $3, I want to say, like after all costs, like, everything that gets taken out of there.
And so I'm sorry, what's the product again?
Spider-Man balloons.
Spider-Man balloons. So like for parties or something.
Yeah. I'm imagining like they're like those kind of tinny Mylar looking ones.
And she got it listed on someone else's Amazon page, or like how did that work?
It's because it's the same SKU. And so that isn't always the case. And obviously that's more of like a limited, hustle. But then there are guys from amazing.com who are in the series. And they teach how to, build an actual Amazon brand. So now you're not just listing on someone else's listing, you're creating your own listings. And you may know this. I didn't know this before the interview. You can look up who is actually manufacturing some name brand, vacuum cleaner, or some name brand blender, or some name brand water filter. And you can go direct to the manufacturer and you can actually buy the exact same product, but with your branding on it.
Yeah, there's a public company, Mohawk, where they basically took these old fashioned brands like ice boxes, for instance. I forgot what the brand name was. And they went to the factory in China and they said, look, from now on, every other ice box you produce is going to have our brand name on it. And they used SEO and Amazon marketing techniques that the guy who created ice boxes for 200 years didn't really know.
Yep.
And like dominated the first 2 pages of Amazon within 48 hours of starting that SKU.
Exactly. And so there's, and that's for people that, want to build something beyond just, the kind of easier layup things. And I'm not saying that's all that lady does, but you can actually build, and their students, they have an incredible track record of getting people up to 6 figures within 6 months, working 1 to 2 hours a day on weekdays, doing just that. And then the benefit to that is you're also building a brand. And so if you do that and you reinvest over a series of years, now you've got like that intangible asset that has also got value as well. And these e-commerce businesses are selling like hotcakes, or they were last I looked into it. So if you want to actually then sell your business and have an exit event and put, 7 figures or multiple 7 figures into your bank accounts, you can do that with an Amazon store.
So how do you get people traffic to your store?
So, well, that's the good thing about Amazon, right? Is it's got millions, probably hundreds of millions of visitors going there every single month looking to buy something. So that's one of the things they talk about is like, how do you identify using the tools that Amazon provides you where the demand is? Because, I like to quote Gary Halbert, who was a infamous, probably better word, copywriter. And he asked, like, what would you want if you had a hot dog stand? If you had one wish, what would you wish for if you had a hot dog stand? And he'd get all kinds of answers. And then he would say, a starving crowd. Like, that's what you're doing. Because if you got a starving crowd, you're going to sell all of your hot dogs really quickly.
That's funny.
So that's what Amazon is. It's a starving crowd.
But like, but there is so many stores on Amazon. Like, let's say there's 1,000 stores that sell Spider-Man balloons. Like, how do I get mine noticed? Or am I just gonna I'm worried I'll just waste my time learning all these drop shipping things, and then I just can't get any traffic.
Yeah, and that's where there is some science and some art to it, where you need to find something with high demand, but that's not so saturated with sellers that you're just going to get dominated. But then there are things that you can do when you launch that will get you to the top of the listings very quickly. So one of those things is like, if you do use good copywriting and good graphics and use like images that handle objections before they even enter the customer's mind. So if you do these things that get your product to convert when you first launch, it's almost like YouTube or, other social media platforms and their algorithms, where if your video gets high engagement and high views, you're going to rise up the rank. You're going to get more and you're going to get distributed to a wider audience. And that's how things go viral. Same thing on Amazon, where if your conversion rates are high off the first traffic, they're going to move you up in the rankings. Then that's going to continue to expand. And so what they were teaching, and I don't remember all the details, but the conversion rate was one of them. They were talking about a hidden field, like that only sellers can see, that broadens your reach. There are these things you can do so where you can actually compete against big brands and you can get to the top of the rankings in just a couple of weeks. But that then goes back to like knowing some of these hacks.
Do you teach some of this in the docuseries?
Yeah, they're covered.
Do you remember like one hack? Like I could, let's say I want to sell T-shirts on Amazon. What's one hack? Like Jay right now is selling T-shirts on Etsy.
Yeah.
What's one hack you can use to get more customers?
So on Etsy, there was a lady who started off selling things, and I think she sells on Etsy. I don't remember. There's so many interviews I've been to in the last week or so that it's hard to remember all the details. When it comes to Amazon, like having that listing dialed in, using direct response tactics, persuasive tactics, good copy.
Oh, okay. When you say direct response, but that means you're like emailing somebody. How do you get the list to email somebody?
Yeah. So, well, you can do that. And that is another like probably hack that works well. So if you do have an email list, you list something on Amazon, you can push people to go buy it. That's going to push you up in the rankings because your conversions are going to be high. But I'm thinking more like when I say direct response copy, that would be benefits, not just talking about the features of your product, but talking about the benefits and what that's going to let your customers do once they own your product. Focusing on calls to action, things like that, generating customer reviews early, things that you can do to maybe incentivize that even to get those reviews there, because that's where most people scroll first, at least I do, to go check out the reviews. So anything that you can do to boost your conversions is going to push you up in the rankings because you're going to get more distribution. I can't necessarily say what would work for T-shirts because maybe T-shirts is the absolute wrong product to pick to sell on Amazon, for example. But I do know, like, on Etsy, this lady was going to throw away some stuff and she decided to list it online, and she sold it like that night for like $600. And then she found a piece of wood that was like out behind her garage, and she chopped it up in a little 1 inch by 1 inch blocks and sold like thousands of them, like not off that one stick, obviously, but like it was craft stuff.
And how was she able to create? I mean, there's this concept of authentic demand. Like, how was she able to find the audience that demanded her product?
With Amazon, they give you analytics tools to do that. So that's where, getting some, actual course type knowledge is going to like be beneficial to you, because the Amazon backend dashboard, when you create a seller account, is going to show you like, almost like a keyword search tool. 10 million people type in this, product every single month. And then so there's that, but then there's also like how many people are selling that. And so being able to analyze that stuff in the dashboard is where the education is going to come into play. And that's something that, again, like for learning by watching these interviews, is do that stuff before you buy your product. So Etsy, again, is a whole different critter. Like I think there, like a lot of what works is your artistic value. And sometimes it's counterintuitive what might help sell more. Vern Harnish is in the series, and he talks about pricing in there, and he talks about how a company just couldn't sell their service offering at $30,000 a year, but whenever they raised the price to $300,000 a year, everybody wanted to buy, and they could barely keep up with the demand. So perhaps Jay should raise his prices on his T-shirt.
Will then it show up like under a different search category, or like how will that really work?
So what that would do potentially is give a higher sense of perceived value. And then, it wouldn't necessarily move him to a different category, but, we know that expensive things are worth more, right? That's the way our brain works.
But still, how would the discovery work in that situation? Like, how would discovery work?
Right. So for that one, I think, with him already being on there, like you're kind of past that point.
Yeah.
And that's why I value these interviews and these series and learning from experts, right? Is because you avoid getting into a situation where you're now trying to fix something that's broken. And I'm not saying that Jay's t-shirt thing is broken, but without having like done the research beforehand to say like, hey, this is definitely, the marketplace I should be using. This is definitely the product I should be using. This is the type of like, subcategory. So, like, is it political t-shirts? Maybe political t-shirts is the way to go right now because that's everything's so hot. But, you can't say that just off the top of your head. You have to actually dive in and look into the data and let the data tell you something.
Is there any website, and maybe you go over this in the docuseries, is there any website that tells you, oh, these are the latest hot drop shipping products?
So there were a few specific sites that were mentioned in the series. I know Alibaba was mentioned in there, but I don't think that's going to tell you that information. I think really the secret is to get into the platform and look at the analytics, being like, how many people are searching for this every month? How many competitors are there in this category?
And I think that is available, like even on Amazon, I think that might be available.
Yeah, absolutely. You just have to create a seller account and then you can get in there right away.
So again, it's like almost like there's 2 or maybe 3 categories of these side hustles. And there's like the kind of the basic freelance thing where, oh,
Mhm.
I can do your logo for $200 in 3 days. And
Yeah.
that's like on Upwork or Fiverr. And then there's like the coders are on there, ghostwriters are
Yep.
on there,
Yep.
website developers are on there. I need a website that looks like
Yep.
Twitter. Can
Social
you do
media
it?
managers. Yeah. All those things. Like, yeah.
And then there's the kind of side hustle that starts off as like a really small one-person business, but then gradually expands. And even, by the way, those freelancing gigs, like
Yeah.
for instance, you could special. I know one person who did Instagram accounts for dentists. Like that was their niche.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was a couple living in Florida. They quit their jobs and like they made $1 million their first year because they would go in and like
Yeah.
film dental procedures and show that this dentist was safer than this or
Yeah.
less painful than this dentist.
Uh-huh.
And then they eventually expanded. They had to hire employees. They got dentists around the country. And so
Yeah.
even those types of freelancing can turn into a real business,
Yeah.
which ultimately
Absolutely.
is how you make those 7-figure exits. And then there are sites like flippa.com or empireflippers.com
Right.
where you can list those businesses and sell them.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, there are. I mean, let's see. So there was the influencer, there's AI, info products, and expert type stuff, selling your services. There was real estate, so Airbnb, rentals, commercial, even traditional like landlord stuff. Affiliate marketing, selling other people's products, and there were a bunch of different ways to do that.
Okay, let's talk about that for a second. So affiliate marketing is like, let's say someone they're selling sneakers, like really high-end expensive sneakers,
Yeah,
and I put a link to them on a blog post, and then anyone who uses it's a special affiliate link, and anyone who
right.
uses that link and software tracks this, anyone who uses that link gets 50% of whatever they buy on the
Yeah,
sneaker seller's site. So that's
yeah,
affiliate marketing. We've covered this on the podcast before. But
yeah.
like, how do you get the audience who's going to want to, you have to have a lot of people read what you're writing
Yep.
or something to get these affiliate deals working.
Yeah, absolutely. So that kind of goes back to, you can be a YouTube star, you can be, an Instagram influencer, so there's social media, right? And so if you understand how to, get engagement and views on social media, but then there's building an email list. So you can pull people off of social media who are interested in high-end sneakers and put them on an email list. Or if it's, something related to health, you could put out, some sort of a health report that people can sign up to get, or same thing with finance, give away a report on, top stocks and the tech sector or whatever, and get people to exchange their email address for that. And now you've got, but basically what you're doing, whatever platform, and I personally think email is the superior form, even in this day and age. But also text, SMS, instant messenger, all these different ways. Once you have that audience, at that point, just sending one message and it getting in front of 1 million people or 100,000 people or whatever the number is, 10,000, 5,000, is what's going to get you enough people to click on your affiliate link to go look at the product. A percentage of them are going to buy it. And then you're going to get a commission because they used your affiliate link. And so it's all about building the audience.
What are some of the most astounding success stories you've seen? I mean, affiliate marketing sounds pretty cool, but like
Yeah.
what are some really great success stories in affiliate marketing
Yeah.
or in other side hustles?
So there's a guy named Igor who was an affiliate marketer. He grew up in Ukraine at the fall of the Soviet Union. His parents like invested with some like Russian mobster money, lost the money, went to Israel, were super just like dirt poor. He was working in a toxic waste factory and started doing affiliate marketing. And within a matter of months was able to get his income up to $10,000, which like was life changing to say the least, because they were going negative every month. And so he did that.
10,000 a month.
Yeah. 10,000 a month, and like quit his job, never looked back. And now he does way more than that. He does way more than that every month.
How did he build, like, what was he selling? How did he build up his list of names?
Yeah. So he does what he calls e-farming, and he's building email lists. And he's doing that by getting other people with email lists to promote something that he's giving away for free. So, he may have a free report, and I actually don't know what niches he's in, but well, I do know one of the niches because he teaches affiliate marketing. And so right now, there's a lot of people in the real estate space who have big email lists, who are pushing people to go check out Igor's stuff. And they're signing up to Igor's email list. And then ultimately, like a percentage of them are buying his course on affiliate marketing. But then once he's got that email data, like he can continue to present products to them as an affiliate. And what he's giving away is this e-farming technique. And that's what he's teaching people. And so, at that point, it then becomes about maintaining a good relationship with your email list. Be sure that you're providing value and things like that, and not just always asking and, pitching something,
Right.
but providing value, this stuff.
Like, I'd like to take his course on farming, these lists, but is this covered in your docuseries?
Yeah, he goes into it. He goes into it at a high level. I like the format for two reasons. Like the things I've talked about already, where like you are going to pick up some mindset stuff, you're going to pick up some big picture stuff, you're going to pick up some really tactical stuff, like the kind of stuff you're asking about. But you're also going to get exposed to like probably a couple dozen different types of opportunities. And even say selling on Amazon, there's like 5 different ways to do that, and like multiple levels of involvement for each, and multiple levels of investment for each. Same thing in real estate. There's lots of different ways to get in it. There's investing and trading is covered in there, like for income and entrepreneurship. So there's all these different options. So that's the second reason I really like this format, the docuseries format, is because it exposes you and it gives you enough information so that you're not a rookie and you're not going to go make completely dumb mistakes. But more so than that, it's going to, like, you're going to see 27 different people talk about how they started their journey, what they're doing, and something is going to click. And you're going to be like, hey, that's cool. I think I could do that. I think I would enjoy doing that. And so at that point, your wheels are spinning. You got a little bit of knowledge, but at that point, it's time to go deeper, right? It's time to not zone in on one thing to start off with and get good at that. And that's where maybe it's affiliate marketing, maybe it's drop shipping, maybe it's Airbnb, maybe it's commercial real estate, like maybe it's day trading. But when you find that thing at that point, it's time to go deeper and get, some self-education. And if you have the money to invest in courses and training, then that's great.
I kind of think this is where the economy is going right now. Like, the unemployment rate is really low, and yet at the same time, people are saying, "Oh, we're in a recession. We're in a recession." The unemployment rate can't be this low in a recession. Like,
Yeah.
recessions are known for high employment rates. That's almost what defines a recession. And I kind of think what's happening is these people are off the books now. Like, they're doing freelance work, they're doing side hustles. And what's the role of like chat? How many people
Yeah.
now are using like ChatGPT for their side hustles, or some AI like Midjourney or Dolly or whatever?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are. As far as like in the series itself, I think we probably had like 5 or 6 people who talked about it specifically. I talked about it quite a bit. Yeah, so it was talked about, but I mean, Chat GPT, it's got like 100 million users or something like that. Forget the exact number. So you got to assume not all of them are like, teenage kids asking it about, dumb questions.
And this is related to like what we were talking about earlier. Like,
Mhm.
if let's say I had a company and I wanted to make a logo,
Yeah.
I wouldn't ask ChatGPT, hey, make my logo, because I'm not a designer. So I don't know if the logo's going to be good or
Yeah.
not. No matter how many people tell me, oh, they make better logos than humans, I think I still need a human to kind of, like you say, be the prompt engineer. So it
Yeah.
makes the logo that fits my personality and my brand and so
Exactly.
on. So I
Yeah.
don't see, and this is not an advertisement for freelancers, but I just don't see ChatGPT replacing people with real artistic talent. Yes,
Yeah.
AI can make a Mozart sonata that sounds just as good as Mozart, but
Yeah.
I don't know. There's something
Yeah.
different. Like when
So
I need something and it's my brand and I need it, I
yeah,
need help from a human to know that
absolutely.
it's just like AI forever has been able to read X-rays better than human doctors. Like
Yeah.
AI could read an X-ray and tell you if you have cancer or not, but it's the law that humans have to be the one to tell you, because
Mhm.
humans help you understand it and process it and so on. And
Yeah.
AI just doesn't do that, at least yet, maybe never. And so
Yeah.
I think there's still a very important role for humans in all of
Oh,
this.
absolutely. What I think it does do is it brings efficiency. So maybe you have someone who is like they know what a good logo looks like, but they don't know how to use, Adobe InDesign or Photoshop or whatever. So now that person, instead of having to go, get a team or like rely on someone else to come up and do that tech work, they can go and prompt, DALI or something like that to provide a set of logos. And then they can say like this, I like this one, but change this about it.
Yeah.
And they can, so it just removes the technical hurdles and the friction that it would take for someone who is maybe, like that high level, brand marketer, brand expert. Now they don't have to rely on a technician. So, there's that. But at the same time, there's people on Upwork or freelancer.com who are looking for a technician, and that technician doesn't have to be a technician anymore. So it can be a really great assistant, an empowering tool, and kind of going back all the way back to the beginning of, it's the human plus the AI that's going to beat either the human without the AI or the AI by itself. So it's that human AI combination, and that's where we are. I hope it's where we stay, for a while, because the thought of like true general artificial intelligence is kind of scary.
Everybody keeps saying, oh, that's going to happen. It's not going to happen. Like,
No.
you know, a computer vision program will never suddenly wake up and say, "Oh, that apple looks like it tastes good." Like that, AI is made. All AI, even ChatGPT right now, is made for one purpose only. That might change because ChatGPT has so much content. Like it can compose sonatas and write code
Yeah,
and
yeah.
do what seems like generalized, but that's only because all of those things are text written on the internet.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't see it either. I think, and I've had some people argue with me that, not in anything, and I'm like, in a good natured sort of way. There are people that think that artificial general intelligence is already out there and that it's being used by some super high level people. I just don't see it. I don't see it as being possible.
Only if all the programs are kind of stitched together. Like if you stitch together Midjourney and ChatGPT and
Yeah,
Copy.ai and all these things, but they're all very different programs. Again, it's all statistics. It's like how much data do you have, and then given a new piece of data, what is the highest probability next piece of data?
yeah, and that's where, like, like if a computer, you talked about computer vision, which is cool, and if a computer does see an apple, it's not going to think about it the way that a human would if it were like generally intelligent. As a matter of fact, like what sort of like paradigm would a general intelligence that's not human be operating from? Like it wouldn't even be. It just seems like it wouldn't be even something that we could really comprehend any more than it could comprehend the way that we think.
Unless it was trained like apples that look like this taste good. Apples look
Yeah,
like
yeah,
this don't taste good. Unless it was specifically trained. It wouldn't
yeah.
just sort of like say, I bet you that one, I understand what taste is and I understand what apples is. I bet that apple might taste good. It doesn't really work like that.
and then it's not driven by the biological need to eat, right? It doesn't take pleasure in that either. Like, those are human things. So that's where, those things are interesting to think about. But I also just think that I don't think we're capable of creating artificial general intelligence.
At least not yet. And I don't even know what it really means. I guess that
Right?
means,
Exactly.
it's good at everything, but like it has to learn somehow. So it has to learn on a set of data. And the output is always based on statistics, essentially. Even neural networks is like kind of a form of statistics.
Yeah. Well, and we go down different paths because we have desires, we have emotions, right? So those things are drivers for us humans, but like, why would a machine want to learn anything if it wasn't prompted to do so by a human?
Yeah.
So anyways, I think AI is going to be a good assistant, and I guess, the future may shock all of us, but hey,
Yeah.
hopefully,
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
But Michael, your series sounds great. I want to watch it and I want my kids to watch it, most importantly. How can I watch your series?
So we'll give you a link so that you can share that with your audience.
And when's it going to be available?
So people can sign up to watch it starting on the 8th, and then the first episode drops on the 23rd.
And can I ask, to my listeners, do we get like a discount? What's it cost to watch this docuseries?
It's free. It's free. You can watch it. So every episode's up for free for 24 hours. And then we'll do like a binge watch weekend at the end of that. That's supposed to be a surprise, but I just gave it away. But people can watch it for free. And then we do have the option to buy it for on-demand viewing. If they do, then we toss in just a ton of bonuses, and we can get you like a 50% off discount on it and all those kind of things. But we toss in just a ton of educational resources that go along with it if you decide to invest. But you don't have to. Like, we give it away for free. There's enough people who will buy it that it'll make it a profitable event, but also like just getting the information out there where it can help change people's lives. That's a big motivator for me and for my partners in this venture as well.
Well, that's great. I'm so excited because we even have a sub-series, Side Hustle Fridays, where we talk about side hustles. This would be such a great thing. Maybe after it's had its run, we could even air part of it on the podcast or something.
Nice. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Michael Hearne. I really hope you do well with it. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to force my kids to watch it.
Shame.
Sounds exciting. So good luck.
Thanks, James. I appreciate it. Always great to see you.
Your daily dose of gaming just got way more epic with the Snapdragon processor powering the Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra. Snapdragon processors give you the premium mobile experience that triggers your inner champion. Whenever you want, wherever you want. Get ready for edge-of-your-seat performance, advanced customizations, ultra-realistic graphics, and adrenaline-boosting speeds that have the power to move you in more ways than one. Follow us on Instagram at Snapdragon Official.
Diving deep into your passions has never been easier. Thanks to Amazon Prime. You get all-in-one access to the things you need, so you can get more out of the things you love. With a range of services including Prime Video, Amazon Music, and Prime Fast free shipping. Amazon Prime is like your personal mission control for all the things that inspire. From shopping and streaming to saving, it's on Prime. Visit Amazon.com/Prime to get more out of whatever you're into. It's on Prime.